Good morning. Time for some more Mountains of Spices. This morning we are reading from chapter 8, the Mountain of Saffron, which is the fruit of long suffering, or some know it as patience. Um, and the subtitle is The Suffering of Love. The next part of the high places to which the king led Grace and Glory was to the mountain of Saffron, the fourth peak in the range of the mountain of spices. The mountain on which grew the spice flowerings of long suffering was far more exposed than any of the other mountains, for it jutted out some way in front of them all and was so open to the elements and to all the raging tempests, that in comparison with the other peaks its slopes were almost bare. Neither fruit trees nor flowering shrubs clothed its sides. Indeed, except for a few scattered pine trees, it was bare of trees altogether. But it towered up to a peculiarly beautiful shaped peak, and a great part of it was always covered with snow. All over the slopes, however, grew carpets of crocuses of the most delicate and beautiful hues. Even on the areas where the partly melted snow still lingered, they pushed themselves up through the white covering to greet the light, forming patches of delicate mauve, lavender, periwinkle blue, yellow, and orange, deep purple, and palest rose pink, so that no part of the mountain remained unclothed, either in the pure white of snow or the rainbow-colored robe of flowers. There were clusters of golden stamens at the heart of each crocus, and from the cross-shaped stigmas of the flowers, after they had been dried and pressed, a spicy seasoning could be obtained, and also a sweet perfume. It was from these beautiful carpets of saffron crocuses, therefore, that the mountain received its name. The inhabitants of the high places were accustomed to gather and dry a great quantity of this saffron of long suffering, which they then took down to the valley to share with their relatives and friends and the other inhabitants of the low places. For the flavor of the spice was delicious, and as it could only be obtained on the high places, except for a very inferior quality which could be cultivated on the lower slopes, it was considered a great delicacy with which even the shepherd's enemies were glad to have their daily food flavored, despite the fact that only his servants could provide it. Interesting. Grace and Glory had seen the saffron crocuses growing on other parts of the high places, but never in such glorious profusion as on this mountain. It was impossible for them to walk anywhere without treading on these delicate hued flowers and using them much as a doormat. As soon as their feet were lifted from them, however, she noticed that the dauntless, gay little things bobbed up again at once, as fresh and uncrushed as though they had not been trodden upon. When she remarked on this to the king, he explained with another of his happy smiles that this was the characteristic of true long suffering. It bears quite happily everything that is done against it, resents not at all being trampled underfoot, and reacts to the wrongdoing of others against itself as though no wrong had been done at all, or else as though it had forgotten all about it. For long suffering is really the lovely quality of forgiveness, and bearing contentedly and joyfully the results of the mistakes and wrongdoing of others. When he had explained this to her, he taught her another of the mountain songs. Love will bear and will forgive. Love will suffer long, die to self that she may live, triumph over wrong. Nothing can true love destroy, she will suffer all with joy. From resentment love will turn, when men hate will bless. She, the Lamb, like grace will learn to love more, not less. Only bearing can forget, strength to pardon and forget. Love must give and give and give. Love must die or share. Only so can true love live, fruitful everywhere. She will bear the cross of pain, and will rise and live and reign. By this time the king and his companion were so far up the mountain that they had almost reached the skyline, and now they seated themselves beneath one of the pine trees on a cushion of moss and lichen. The pungent fragrance of the sun-warmed pine needles and cones filled the air, and across from the wooded slopes of a neighboring mountain came the clear and oft-repeated call of a coo-coo. Overhead the high sky was such a wonderful blue, it was as though they sat beneath a roof of sapphire. In this lovely setting, the king and Grace and Glory continued the conversation they had begun on the mountain of Spikenard. The scene was so beautiful that at first the main thought which filled the mind of Grace and Glory was that though they were surrounded with so much beauty, and though every living thing around them seemed an individual cup and brimming over with joy, they were actually sitting upon the mountain of suffering love. It was this strange paradox which led Grace and Glory at last to break the thoughtful silence in which they had been sitting. "My lord," she said, "this is called the mountain of long suffering. Has love no power to save and help others apart from suffering? Why must love suffer at all? And why, above all else, must love suffer long?" "It is because the very essence of love is oneness," answered the king. "That is why love must suffer. If the beloved creatures whom the Creator created for love's sake must suffer, then the oneness of love makes it impossible for Him to allow them to suffer anything which He is not willing to suffer with them. It is because the whole body of mankind is suffering so dreadfully from the disease of sin and all its dreadful consequences that I, who am so one with mankind, must suffer it all with them. Ever since the first sin, the love of God has been, as it were, upon a cross of suffering. For do you not see that when I became man, I became head of the whole suffering body of mankind? You also know that it is the head which feels all the sum total of any and all suffering experienced by the individual members of the body. This is so great a mystery of love that men can only take it in little fragments. But once in time, when men were at last able to understand it, the tremendous revelation was made of the Son of God, made Son of Man. crucified by the sin of men, bearing it all, feeling it all, and overcoming it all, that by so doing he might be able to overcome the disease of sin in the whole suffering body or race of men. Think of what it means to be able to save and to heal, to be able to raise up out of that which has been so cruelly marred and diseased, something far more glorious than would otherwise have been impossible. For a while he said no more, and Grace and Glory, too overwhelmed by the mystery of anguish and the mystery of love, could say not a word. But presently she heard the voice of suffering love, speaking very softly. Indeed, so low was the tone of his voice, she could barely discern the words, but this is what she thought she heard him say. Love was made man, O Son of God, flesh of our flesh, blood of our blood, we are his body, let us kneel. He, as our head, feels all we feel. This is the love of God the Son, with fallen mankind, made at one. O mystery of Adam's race, the sin-sick body with Christ's face. Behold our God and Savior thus. We love him, for he first loved us. And he was crucified. O loss! In us God's Son hangs on his cross. In mankind's body there upborn, wounded by sin, defiled and torn. He is our life, our very breath, yet in the body of our death. All pangs of sin's disease so dread are suffered by our thorn-crowned head. Behold our God and Savior thus. Love him, because he so loves us. And he descended into hell, the deepest depths God's love knows well. So one with us he will not part, e'en from the hardest self-willed heart. Where shall we go to flee from thee? Love's only answer still must be. Though thou dost make thy bed in hell, lo, I am with thee here as well. Behold our God and Savior thus. Love him, because he so loves us. On the third he rose again, long night of sorrow and earth's pain, gone like a dream, death vanquished now. The victor's crown is on love's brow. The body's sin could not destroy, now healed and raised to life and joy. By Adam came all sin and pain, in Christ shall all men live again. Behold our God and Savior thus. See what his love will do for us. And that is the end of chapter 8. Until next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May he make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and grant you his Shalom.